Alright guys, welcome back! So, in this video, let's just talk about the Embers now. They're literally almost the same exact setup with these sparks effects here. And these Embers are like inside the shockwave and everything. So I'm just gonna quickly explain. Let's jump into Houdini. So we got the sparks here. And this is the Embers. All that stuff. So it comes out like this, boom, and comes out with all the particle trails and everything, all the goody goody. All right, so let's hop in. So I just want to quickly explain that it's literally almost the exact same setup as what we had for the sparks. So all I'm just taking is that little point that stores the start frame of the impact and using that scatter from burst node. Very simple. So you can see all the vectors here. So next, after this, all I want to do is to squish this down onto the ground so that if it's got the same, almost the same like height as our shockwave. And with the velocities, I'm also squishing down the y-axis just so that most of them will come outwards and less not really upwards. So if you see, some of these guys are pointing up, are like coming, we got some velocities pointing up, and all I'm doing is lessening that upwards vector. All right, so all these again are just the same thing. All came from the pyro scatter from burst quick setups, simulated particles, and that gives you this pop network. So this pop net, the only thing that's changed from the spark setup is, so we got the pop wind obviously, and we got some pop force just to add some noise, some pop drag, and you've also got the same pop axis force as the sparks. It's got the same setup. Nothing too fancy here. Just change the radius and the height of the effector shape. Then we got the pop attract, which is the exact same thing as our sparks. Cool, nothing fancy there. And the two new nodes that I'm using right now is these two pop advect by volumes. So one is advecting the whole particles with the velocity field from the third context geometry, and one is using the gradient of this guy of the shockwave. So if you have a look at our velocities, what I'm gonna do is put down a bell trail. Oh, sorry. So also we can do to check the velocities of our volume is, what I usually do is just scatter some points onto the volume and do a volume trail. Points to trail, and these scatter nodes, scattered points in the velocity volume there. And make sure we put down our vel under the velocity volume. So if you have a look, now we can see how our velocities look like on our shockwave. Boom. Pretty cool. And another thing that I wanted to do is the gradient. So if you have a look at the density, and we just have to compute the gradient of our density, and what we get from that is this beautiful thing. So we're just gonna scatter points on the volume, and we can see how the gradient looks like. So I'm just gonna increase this. It's not very clear how it looks like, but yeah. So what this does, what this helps in the simulation is to create some clumping wherever there are higher densities on the smoke. So it pushes the particles towards the higher, the denser parts of our shockwave, of our smoke. If you can see the smoke and our cache, it's clumping those particles together to the denser areas of the smoke. And then inside of that, I'm just using the gradient, which is the one that we just calculated with a VBB analysis. I'm just telling the advection type to update the positions of our particles. And also with the pop advect by volume, I'm just telling the advection type to update the velocity of our particles. So these two pop advect by volumes have an animated activation. So I set some keyframes on there so that around this frame where I want the particles to get sucked in, I don't want them to be advected by the volume, by the shockwave anymore. So all I'm doing for the pop advect by volume is telling it to deactivate on that frame. Awesome. So here is literally the same setup as the blue sparks. They're all just to calculate the speed and adjusting the value attribute based on the speed. So we have something like this. I'm using the particle trail, by the way, to create all these nice trails for our particles. It's a really convenient node. It's a Houdini node. If you put on particle trail, here you go, and we get all that nice goody stuff. And just change the color to be whatever you want. And you can even do some randomization, I think. If you do a specific value, we got some color palettes in here. Tell it to be electric sparks. Now you can do some electric sparks type of stuff. That's pretty cool. Zoom. Boom. Boom. There's other color palettes that SideFX has done for the particle trail. Done powder spark, we got fire spark, and we got electric spark, welding sparks as well. All good stuff like that. And sometimes you could even do attribute adjust color. And what we can do, instead of doing the adjustment here, we can enable color correction and do some hue shift just to find the right color palette we want. Something like that. And maybe use electric spark. Cool. Perfect. Zoop. You can also color these actually based on the length of the trail and over normalized age, but I didn't do any normalized age coloring, multiplying, scaling down for this setup. So here, was it? I did actually. Cool. Awesome. So that's pretty much it for these nice looking embers for the shockwave. So they're not very complicated. I think they're quite straightforward, and especially with the tools that SideFX has provided for us. all these quick setup stuff. It makes life a lot easier, and the particle trail node is probably one of my favorite nodes to use for all sorts of magic stuff. Awesome. So I guess I'll see you around. All right.